Hey guys, we are gonna do something a little bit different. So, starting this year, we're gonna try and post the video footage from all of our podcasts. So you're gonna see something a little bit different on the YouTube channel that you won't hear when you're on the road. But just it's a little bit of a change. So if you're used to listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the other places that you might listen to us, nothing changes for you. The audio is the same, but the video footage now from our calls on YouTube will now include footage. We used to go to YouTube and you just get the audio footage anyway. We're going to change the way we do that. We've just had folks kind of asking for the video feed. Um, the other thing, um, this episode with Dr. Janice Rudkowski, we actually recorded in June, and then I don't know what happened. So Janice, if you're listening to this, I apologize. We every now and then we put out, last year in 2025, we put out, I think 65, podcast episodes, somewhere between, 52 and 65 podcast episodes we put out a year, plus footage. And somewhere in there, Janice got lost. Now, having said that, we are starting a new semester, for students that are in school, and for those of you who are not students but students retail. Janice is a delight to listen to. So, Janice, I'm sorry it took so long. For everybody else, I am super pumped. I love Janice and what she's doing, and you'll hear it. She's part of uh, the educational part of what I am, of what I do now, and why I do what I do. Okay. Enjoy the podcast. I'll see you soon.
Come on.
This thing, we wanted to say thank you. We've had a very busy year, and we've had a lot of just amazing brands and partners and retailers on the show. And what we really wanted to do was give a special thank you to Field Agent Canada,
Yeah,
and
Jeff and his crew.
Jeff Doucette and his group, because they have been, so supportive this year. They've sponsored the podcast, which has allowed us to do so many more things than we would normally do.
He's really helped us do a lot of cool things. Like
Yeah,
really and truly. Like I mean, it's a big shout out and thanks to Jeff and his
yeah,
amazing crew. And actually, more than anything is that it's just the stuff they do
yeah.
um, for a lot of the industry and reasonable. Like I mean, honestly, like I just think what they do is pretty freaking slick.
If you've listened to any of these episodes, you'd know that Field Agent headlines, before we start, and what they do, we think for retail and for brands and
Small
retailers,
or big.
small or big, we think that they have changed the game. They continue
Yeah,
to change the game, and they've made the shelf accessible to everyone.
yeah,
Knowledge about the shelf,
yeah.
performance on shelf, accessible to everyone. And so we think it's a nice synergy to go from a company, to be able to partner with a company that is doing some serious good for the industry, and also be able to help us bring content to you guys on the channel.
Yeah.
We appreciate that
Yeah.
so very
I don't
much.
think he knows how much we actually appreciate it. So I just
Yeah,
want to make sure we do.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely shout out
yeah.
to Jeff and his crew. Seriously.
If you haven't looked at them, you should. Fieldagentcanada.com.
Hey, welcome to This Commerce Life, an unscripted podcast that focuses on the stories behind small and independent Canadian retail and Canadian CPG.
What we try and do is deliver or pull out the story of our guests and give them to you. The good, the bad, the ugly of retail and CPG in Canada. We're filling a need because we think that retail is hard on the best of days, but it's also a wonderful, wonderful place to grow up and make your living.
We also think that the industry, nor the people that inadvertently find themselves in the industry, really understand the industry at all. They don't really understand what goes on behind the scenes.
So listen to us, Phil and Kenny. We'll unravel it for you. we'll give you the story. We'll give you the story behind the story. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. You can hear me okay?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, we have some, actually, I think I have the same t-shirt as you, Phil.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'll keep the vintage off. So
What year are you?
I'm a 72.
Okay, mine says 73.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
my 50th birthday present from my sister.
Yeah, similar from my children. So yeah. 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 Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Mine's a little smaller number than your two.
Smaller, smaller, smaller.
Well, it is. It's a
Was it like a
smaller year. It's a
19
bigger
oh
number on the other side, but
something?
a smaller year.
19 something, 1908, 1909.
66, buddy
Did,
boy.
did you make it to 1910s or 20s maybe or
So funny. So funny.
Janice, so Janice, meet Kenny. Kenny, meet Janice.
Hi, Kenny.
How are you?
Great.
I'm excited to do this because so Kenny was like, so we're unscripted and we we don't really prep for these things, right? So it's a conversation and he was like, who is this? And what school? What is this? And I said, oh, it's TMU. And he goes, what's
What's a
TMU?
Toronto MU?
Because Kenny's from he's based in Vancouver, right? So I was like, oh, it's the old Ryerson, and oh my gosh, it's Janice. Janice is coming out. Yes, right. And he's like, okay, you're very excited, but I don't understand. Like, what is going?
All good. All good. I was kind of curious. I do like to at least know a couple minutes before we sign on who we're signing on with, but typically I
do
don't.
like almost 10 minutes before. That's about it, all the prep we do. So,
There we go.
for the audience, we have Dr. Janice Rudkowski on, and I'm really excited because she, um, I met Janice when I was at Hubba, I think, at the
That's
time.
right.
I had left Target, I'd gone to Hubba, and I've always called you Janice. Do I call you Dr. Rudkowski?
Oh, God, no.
Anybody? Okay, so I met Janice, and Janice was teaching retail, and I got the chance before I ever really started teaching for real. I got the chance to teach in Janice's classes, and we were teaching merchandising. I think we were talking about SKU assortments, how buyers think. And you had like TMU had the Ryerson or TMU had this really neat retail program, right? That
That's right.
was helping kids kind of figure out, and it was the only one, like it was so interesting, right? Because everybody else falls into retail, but if you went to Ryerson at that time, you had the chance to like actually think about getting in, right? They're all amazing because they all wanted to go into fashion, right? But pretty amazing stuff. So yeah, and I think that's how we met, right? So then I met you, and I got a chance to talk in some of your classes, and meet some of your
Well,
students.
do you remember exactly how we met, though?
No, I do not.
So I had to look through my emails because I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
I remember having you in my class, and I remember you. It was my buying and merchandising class,
Mm. Mhm.
and the reason why Hubba was so interesting to show the retail management students is that it was like an online marketplace for like B2B marketplace.
Yeah.
So like the retail buyers could connect with potential vendors, and I had a project that the students did, and they still do this project, where they have to select a retailer to go and visit their stores, visit their, and look at their online presence, and then come up with a new product assortment. So they have to think about potentially a new product category, new assortment. They also have to find potential vendors. And so that was where you came in, as you gave them access to
Yeah.
the Hubba platform. But I was like, but how did Phil and I actually meet? Like, I remember you coming into the class and being part of the course, but I'm like, but there's got to be something before that of how we actually got
Yeah.
connected. And so I found an email where Dave Savory from Ripen
Oh, that's right.
me to you because I was working with Ripen at the time. And how I met Ripen was through, I was working at Mars Discovery District
Right.
and I was a facilitator helping them with their entrepreneurial education program. And Ripen happened to be one of the companies. So Dana and Dave happened to come into my class that day at Mars Discovery District. I think it was like a marketing and communications class specifically designed for entrepreneurs. And they were telling me about their platform and how it's for educators to get connected with industry partners to provide experiential education
Yeah.
opportunities for students. Anyways, I started working with them using their platform, and Dave had said, "Oh, you have so much in common with this guy, Phil. I need to introduce you to him." So that is actually how we
Oh,
met.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that. But you're right. That is how we met. And it was so fun. Your classes were so fun. They were so fun.
Yeah, you know what? Speaking of experiential education, I think that's and when I look back at, my career in retail and CPG and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
I always want to try to bring that into the classroom. I always want to try to connect industry, as closely as possible to the educational part of it. To me, that is what really equips students to be able to like present themselves, have conversations, even have that sort of industry speak. When they get the opportunity to meet and interview, and then launch their careers. So yeah, it's always very hands on. It's always connected with industry, doing practical kinds of projects that are going to give them like immediately like they've got skill building opportunities to be relevant and valuable in whatever aspect of the retail ecosystem they're interested in. Because when Bill, when you were joining our class, I would say the majority of the students were interested in fashion. And there's no question we still have a lot of students that are interested in pursuing careers in fashion and buying. And we have great industry partners like Sephora and Lululemon who are constantly hiring our students, but and to work in the head office environments. But our students do such diverse things. As we know, retail is so diverse, and there's not only the CPG side of it, there's the retailer head office side of it, retail operations side of it, but then there's
Yeah.
all the third party
Yeah.
companies like Haba is was part of the retail
Yeah.
ecosystem. And so a lot of those really important third party service providers that really provide those like valuable elements for retailers and CPG, our students are involved in that too.
I love it.
Do you
I love
actually teach retail?
She does.
I don't know anybody who teaches. I mean, outside of people like us who are
No, but
been
she
retail
actually
forever,
teaches students,
but
right?
an
Not
actual
entrepreneurs who have
university we're
already gotten in
teaching
trouble.
retail.
Yeah, well, I'm part of so I'm a faculty member at the School of Retail Management at Toronto Metropolitan University, which is part of the business school, Ted Rogers School of Management. And we're really the only degree that teaches retail, undergraduate degree that teaches retail from day one. So in first year, all the way through, fourth year, they're getting a Bachelor of Commerce degree. So the students are taking all of the courses that you would anticipate a
Right.
business student to take, from HR to accounting to finance to
Right.
marketing. Um, but they're also getting retail specific courses. So, for example, I teach a merchandise planning and buying course that all second year students have to take. We have a supply chain and logistics course that all third year students have to take. We have a retail consumer insights course that all students have to take, and those are complemented with their like fundamental business courses.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's a very specialized program, but I mean it supports an industry that is massive.
Well, I tell you the truth. I mean, otherwise, I mean, it's a million years ago, but where there was eight, you could get 8 degrees, 8 sub-degrees within the UBC. Marketing, it was organizational behavior time. It wasn't human resources. We had transportation. It wasn't, logistics. Computer science was the first year it was offered as a minor. I think one person went through it the year that I graduated. That was the first person who got that. But there was never, I mean, the retail talk they did was literally skimming, and quite frankly, because I had already been in retail, was useless. And as long more you got into retail, like because I've never been out of it, it didn't get any better. Like they really didn't prepare people for what the world of retail is really
Retail. I
like.
mean, Kenny and I, we do a lot of consulting, and the truth is people fall into it, right? And that's how we behave. That's how we teach. Is you fell into it. Let's show you how to do
May as
it
well understand it
for
now.
real. But you're actually showing people how to do it for real, which
That's
is
amazing. I
Well,
didn't know there was anything like that.
our school's been around since 1998, so it's nothing new.
New to me. Like I didn't know there was anything like
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Like honestly,
yeah.
I mean,
But unique for sure. Yeah, for sure. I love it.
wow, that's cool.
Janice, do you want to go backwards a little? Like, what's your maybe share a bit about your background and where you come from, how you wound up here. So, and before you start that, what I do want to say is, so I've gone on, I got the taste of teaching from you and your students. I went on, like, so now I teach digital marketing at Centennial. But the the way in which I approach all my classes, the interactive, the practical approaches, that is you, my friend. That is you,
Aw.
watching you and how you, but because it's the first time that I saw classes for real, right?
Hmm.
Like, other than that, it was all, virtual or textbook or, and then being able to hang out with your class and watch the way you did things practically, that made a lot of sense to me, right? So when I got into actually teaching, that's what I was thinking about, was like it was really real, right? So how do I mimic that style, right? So anyway, so now I'll shut up. So tell us about you and then where you come from and all those, so you can go anywhere you want with this. The next like 45 minutes is yours.
Well, I think retail has been the common thread throughout like all of my professional goals, and when I think back to my jobs in high school, I worked in retail. I always worked in fashion retail in high school, and that actually was what drove me to want to study fashion retail as an undergrad. And so I grew up in Alberta. I had no idea where I was going to find a degree in fashion retail, but I did find one, and it was Ryerson at the time. At the time, it was called Ryerson Polytechnic University when I joined, back in the early 90s. And it was the only degree in Canada in fashion with a specialization in retail, which meant that I could learn how to be a retail buyer, which is what I really wanted to do. And by the time I left Ryerson and graduated, it was Ryerson uh, Polytechnic University. So it started as Polytechnic Institute. When
Yeah.
I graduated, it was Polytechnic University, and then a few years later, they dropped the Polytechnic and it became Ryerson University. And then in 2022, as part of efforts towards truth and reconciliation, uh, Ryerson was renamed Toronto Metropolitan University, and now we refer to it as TMU. So I graduated with a degree in fashion retail, and I started working in wholesale fashion. So I got a job with Guess in their regional office in Toronto, which served all of Ontario. So I was dealing with all different types of retailers from the Bay to over the rainbow in Toronto. Um, Joel Carmen,
Oh my gosh.
who's still
Yes.
running over the
Yeah.
rainbow with his I think it's his kids now that are also running it with him. And selling Guess jeans to these retailers, and it really gave me this understanding of that relationship between like the vendor and the retailer. And while I worked at Guess, they said, "Hey, like you're doing a pretty good job as helping us with like it was a very entry level job, helping them with their showroom, unpacking samples, helping buyers, um, uh, into the showroom and that sort of thing." They're like, "Hey, we're going to be launching a new line of handbags and accessories. Would you like to rep that line?" I'm like, "Sure." So I took the handbag line. It was leather jackets, it was belts, and they were like, "We don't have any accounts. Go ahead and open up accounts." So I shoved all the samples into the trunk of my car and started driving across Ontario, knocking on every like handbag and leather store, shoe store I could find. Like I brought town shoes on, and it was so entrepreneurial. It was so fun to just like get out there and represent a brand, and I absolutely loved it. That was like my first job out of university, and like
Wow.
what a taste of how retail works and how it operates. But I definitely wanted more. I wanted more strategy. I wanted more like I really wanted to understand the behind the scenes of building the brand. And that's what led me to decide to go and do an MBA. So I did an MBA at York University, specializing in marketing, and I had not really understood how consumer packaged goods worked because I had been really enmeshed in fashion, but I was craving like the strategy and the planning, and that's when I learned about the whole world of CPG. Was through Alan Middleton at York University. He's like total marketing guru. um, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to like work at P&G or something like that? And so my goal between first and second year was to get like a paid internship at one of the CPG
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah.
P&G was my first choice. I went through a lot of interviews with them. I never got the job. I was very disappointed because I think it was 5 rounds of interviews. Plus, they like took me out for dinner and all of these things. I thought for sure I'm getting the job,
This is
and
the
then I didn't.
place. Yes.
But then I didn't get the job.
Oh, no.
But I did get the job at Unilever, and that summer they said, "Hey, we'd love for you to join the brand management team as an assistant brand manager on Pond's, but we want to launch a new line of Pond's products for teenagers." And so that whole summer, I worked on launching a product line of face care called Pond's Clear Solutions. And that summer, that 4 months, it was like start to finish product development, product packaging design, advertising, creative, um, the full product launch within
So
4 months.
yeah.
It was like a crash course in brand management. Really, really amazing. I learned so much. And by the time I finished that internship, they said, "Hey, you know what? We'd love for you to come back when you graduate. So here's an offer, here's a signed offer. We want to kind of lock you in." And
That's
so,
amazing.
yeah. And so the second year of my MBA,
Yeah.
I could just kind of relax and enjoy the real, like the learning experience, knowing that I would be going back to Unilever
Yeah.
once I graduated. And when I graduated, I was like, okay, what brand am I going to be working on? And they said, well, it's going to be very much, needs of the business. And so a couple weeks before my start date, they called me and said, um, we have a place for you, but we just want to make sure that it's a brand that you're interested in. And they said, how would you feel about working on Dove? And of course,
Ugh,
I'm like,
not Dove. Anything but Dove. Like, I mean,
yeah.
what
A
rinky
little
dink
bit bigger.
brand is this? Like, ugh, you know?
Yeah, they're like, would you be okay working on Dove? I'm like, yeah, I'll be okay working on Dove.
Oh my God. Although, like when you were there, Dove was big, and then that was right around. I'm definitely going back, but I think that's when Thermosilk, like that whole hair lineup, like
Yeah,
hair
Thermosilk
stuff
was
was
actually
all
just
like,
launched
yeah,
during those like couple years that I was at Unilever,
yeah,
but the Dove brand was going through a really interesting time. This was before the real beauty
right,
campaign,
right,
and what was happening was Ivory was really like neck and neck in terms of market share.
yeah,
And we were really concerned about the Ivory market share. So everything was about trying to differentiate, really like leveling up the 1/4 moisturizing cream. We did this massive segmentation study, which led to the launch of Dove Sensitive. Um, we also had a line of like baby products, body wash. So Dove was still very much like skincare and face care. It
yeah,
hadn't yet exploded into hair
yeah.
care,
But
and
yeah.
it was a really interesting time to be working on Dove.
No, listen, yeah. I mean, Thermosilk was kind of the shiny penny, but Dove was it was a big lineup. Like, just
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. So you got to work on Dove. Amazing.
yeah, and from Unilever, like I mean, this is exactly how it happened actually. Things were going quite well at Unilever. There was like a career path sort of lined up for me. They were very good at doing things like that. But, one day I wasn't having a very good day. And I was just kind of thinking, like, oh, I don't know. I'd like to kind of fast track a little bit. Their plan for me is a little bit longer. And as it so happened, I got a call from a headhunter. And Jane Richards, I don't know if you ever came across Jane
Yeah,
Richards, but she was
yeah,
always calling
yeah,
people. Like she's
yeah,
just a real go-getter.
yeah.
And she happened to catch me on a bad day. And she's like, "Hey, what would you think about working at Mattel and managing Barbie?" I'm like, "Wow, it sounds really fun."
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, She's like, it would be a promotion, it would be, you'd have more responsibility, you'd have an opportunity to work in the licensing business, which could, kind of branch out your skill portfolio. I'm like, well, I'll go for an interview and, see how it goes. And after the interview, I was completely sold that, yes, this is going to really be an interesting move for me. And it was so ironic because when I went to go do my MBA, I was like, there's no way anyone at like a Unilever or a P&G would hire someone with a fashion degree. I thought that's why I need an MBA in marketing, is to get my foot in the door into marketing jobs.
Hmm.
But it was so ironic because when I went to go and meet Mattel, I remember the vice president of marketing at the time, he said in the interview, we never thought we could find somebody that has both marketing and fashion. And this was, when it really was not common to have, fashion plus an MBA. It's much more common now.
Yeah,
And I'm like, wow, okay, this is a place that's like really going to value my experience, not just my CPG, but this is an opportunity to like kind of blend them both together, which I never really thought I'd have the opportunity to do.
yeah.
And so I decided to go over to Mattel as a senior licensing manager. And this was, again, had a lot of similarities to the wholesale fashion business in that I had to go knock on a lot of doors to find licensees. We had a portfolio of existing licensees, but I also had to really grow the business. And there was a lot more at stake because these were companies who were going to be representing the brand. And so I had to work very closely with like legal, and there were certain categories that were a no-no with the Barbie brand.
Mhm.
So it was like a lot of like brand guideline enforcement almost,
Yep.
but a lot of collaboration with very diverse companies, from companies that make shoes to bicycles to um, home decor, stationery. And we I think by the time I finished managing that licensing business, which was both for Barbie and Polly Pocket, there were over 100 licensees to
Wow.
manage. And these were licensees that were based in Canada and the US.
Okay.
They, but they did some really big business. These were all of the Barbie Polly Pocket branded items outside of the doll category. I then moved into the doll category and began manage. So I left the licensing business at Mattel and moved over to the doll category, which was really like the critical ground zero center of Mattel.
Yeah.
You're managing the doll business. It's
Yeah.
like all
That
eyes
is
are
the
on you.
franchise, right? That is the franchise. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was fascinating, managing the doll category, working really closely with colleagues from around the world. There's a lot of like global sharing, but then there was a lot of exclusives that we would do for Canadian retailers as well. That was like a really big differentiation strategy, was exclusive dolls. And I ended up going back to my alma mater and saying, hey, Ryerson School at the time, Ryerson School of Fashion, I said, hey, would you guys like to do a collaboration where we work with the design students? It was coming up at the time to be Barbie's 45th anniversary. We wanted to do something really special for the collector business. And I said, what if we integrated into the course a project where the students get to design what Barbie is going to wear the following year? And I covered this with the corporate head office down in El Segundo, California.
Mhm.
And I said, if we have this student design contest, can you guarantee me that the winning student's design gets produced and goes into like actual production? They said, yeah, that sounds like a really creative idea. We fully support it. And so we had this amazing contest with students, and the winner, her name is Christy Marcus. She was the winner, and Mattel went on to produce the Inuit legend Barbie doll in limited quantities.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Very cool.
her story is like showcased on the packaging, and that I would say was my very first experiential project, that I initiated,
Yeah.
but from the other side of it. And so then when I, got into academia, it was so natural for me to think, well, of course I'm going to build projects with industry, because that was an example, of a project. And I was with Mattel for 5 years. It was a really interesting time. At the time, Bratz had come into the marketplace and were killing Barbie on market share. And so it was a really, really, exciting time to be part of a brand that was uh, like needed work. Like when I think back to like the different brands I've worked on, the most exciting times were when we were being threatened. That's when everybody really gets the most creative, innovative ideas.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about Dove, when we were threatened by Ivory. It's like, okay, guys, we got to come up with something really good.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that. Wow.
And, from Mattel, I was kind of looking back on my career, and I was thinking, okay, like I've got to change things up a little bit. What type of product have I not managed? And for whatever reason, I'm not really sure how this came into my mind, but I really started getting intrigued by pharmaceutical companies. And I just thought, like, it's a completely different kind of business model. It's highly regulated. for me to develop my brand management skills, would that be an opportunity to work in like a highly regulated market, just to kind of expand my experience? And so I, again, got called by a headhunter, and they said, oh, we've got this interesting opportunity at Bayer to manage the Flintstones multivitamins. We want to leverage your toy experience. And I thought, yeah, this is interesting, from toys to drugs, but that but it was an interesting experience going to it's a conservative, very highly regulated, but always using those like fundamental marketing skills, really heavy on market research. Um, I was managing the whole nutritional portfolio. So like 1-a-day multivitamins for men and women. And that actually was an interesting time because cause marketing started to become quite popular. And so I initiated a relationship with Breast Cancer Foundation and Prostate Cancer Canada. And then we did this cause marketing campaign with 1-a-day women's and 1-a-day men's. And that was really interesting opportunity to kind of position a brand in that way.
Wow.
It's a big adjustment. I remember like because I mean Barbie and Mattel, and then I went from yogurt to Pfizer, like Danone to Pfizer.
Yes.
So I remember like you go, this is urgent. Yeah, I got it. It's done. And they're like, I'm booking a meeting for next week so we can talk about it. You're like, that's not urgent. What are we talking about? Like, yeah,
Yes.
let's go, people. Like, but it's definitely a different industry for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Toys
Okay.
were extremely fast paced.
Yeah.
And then you go into a very highly regulated industry, and you really have to have a lot of patience. And like you said, it's a lot of planning, uh, and a lot of involvement with a whole regulatory team, where there's interpretation of
Yeah.
regulations too.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm reading it one way. I'm like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
reading it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you talk to the Health Canada people, and then somebody comes back with a different interpretation,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Or
Yeah.
is there anyone working there right now on the, you know, anyone regulating nutritionals right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was more that one than the other ones.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
These are like I didn't know all I knew some of it, so I knew we shared history at Unilever.
Hmm.
But I think I remember Mattel. I didn't know you were at Bayer. That's like super cool. So you're there,
And then when I'm at Bayer, I had
yeah,
definitely a moment of, I think pushing product out the door is is I'm kind of feeling, like that cycle is like, okay, I'm doing the same thing over and over again, pushing product out the door. I'm like, I really have to change things up. So I started thinking about nonprofit, and I think that was definitely sparked by my work. The cause marketing campaign really kind of opened the door to me about this whole other nonprofit world, and I started seeing that they were really doing some sophisticated marketing efforts, which I thought, oh, this could be interesting. Maybe that's a way to kind of redirect my career to do like some more meaningful work, but also to understand like a services mindset more than just a, pumping product down the door mindset. And I reconnected with a former Unilever colleague who I knew had been working in nonprofit, and I simply met with her to have a coffee one day, and I wanted to hear her experience of going from, CPG to nonprofit. I mean,
hmm
I wanted to understand like the pay cut, even just, the resources available once you get in the work environment. Like, what am I getting myself into? And so I go to meet with her. She's visibly pregnant, and which I didn't know before I was about to meet with her. And by the end of the conversation, she said, "Well, the timing of you reaching out to me was perfect because I'm pregnant. I'm about to leave, go on parental leave. And she said, they're going to be looking for a replacement for me. So what do you think?
You're like, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah.
Just a minute.
I'm like, I thought we were just meeting for a coffee so
Yeah,
I could, pick your brain. And she's like,
yeah,
well, your timing couldn't have been more perfect.
yeah.
And it was a company called Career Edge organization.
Okay.
And I, obviously went through the interview process and everything, but subsequently got, a 1-year mat leave contract and of my, former colleague from Unilever. And it was a really interesting company to apply, my marketing skills at, because they had basically 4 different brands to manage. So they had their corporate brand, which was Career Edge Organization. Then they had 3 um, paid internship brands. So one brand was just called Career Edge, and it was a paid internship program for new grads. Then they had Ability Edge, which was a paid internship program for people with disabilities. And then there was a program called Career Edge, which was a paid internship program for internationally qualified professionals. And all of basically the services were Career Edge provided full kind of like recruitment, placement, payroll. And we were working with big companies like RBC, Loblaw, Bell Canada, Rogers. They were hiring these paid interns, giving them a chance, like giving them a foot in the door, but they didn't have to manage any of the payroll. So they didn't have to do that burdensome work, of bringing someone on board and all that administrative work only to, for a 4-month contract, 6-month contract, 12-month contract. But we had really high success rates. So I was building this like nonprofit brand, which a lot of times had to do with showcasing the interns themselves and their amazing stories, whether it was facing barriers because they didn't have work experience or facing barriers because they didn't have Canadian work experience. It was, and then of course I'm working with corporate Canada at the same time as customers. So it never really felt like we were actually a nonprofit. Like it actually
Right.
felt like corporate because all of our customers were corporate Canada.
Mm.
Um, so it was kind of like maybe a soft launch into nonprofit, but it was, and then I was there for about 5 years, director of marketing and communications. And I think it was actually there that I started to feel very entrepreneurial. And so I ended up getting packaged out of Career Edge. They were making some, structural changes. And it was kind of perfect timing because this was when I was starting to think about running my own consulting business. And so that's what I did. It was in 2012. But at the same time, I got a call from TMU. Over the years, I had kept in touch with my professors. I had also expressed my interest in one-day teaching, maybe a course here or there. I just kind of like put the bug in the air. And I got a call in 2012. Like it was perfect timing because I had just wrapped up everything with Career Edge. I was just launching my consulting business. And they said, we have an emergency leave. The course is already like in play. It's like 3 or 4 weeks. The course has started, but the professor has to take an emergency leave. Would you like to step in and teach this course? And I'm like, yes, I will definitely do that. So I was completely just, thrown in midway into this advanced buying course. But the instructor, was very generous. She gave me all of her materials. I was able to attend one class with her. It was going to be her last class with her students before she had to take an emergency leave. And I'm like, all right, here I am. I'm teaching. And that really gave me the taste. That gave me the taste of teaching. And I thought, okay, how am I started running my consulting business. It was, I had some really great accounts. I was having a lot of fun. I also then at that time started working at Mars Discovery District as a, education facilitator. developing curriculum for entrepreneurs. And it was like 2014 where I thought, okay, I need to take more formal steps to figure out how to get a full-time gig at university.
Yeah.
And ultimately that would require going back to school. So I went back to school in 2014 part-time. I did a master's in business management research. And then I subsequently did a doctorate in business administration, which then allowed me to segue into like a tenure track position at the university. So it's been a bit of a journey, with a lot of different career kind of, like some were goals and some were really serendipity and some just felt right, at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and then in 2019 was when I started full time. Well, 2016, I got a full-time contract at TMU, but just for teaching. So 2016 to 2019, I had a full-time teaching contract. And then 2019 is when I got hired sort of on the tenure stream, which means that it's teaching, research, and service. So I started my research career as well in 2019 with the university. And I hope to stay working with TMU. This is my last gig.
Oh,
No, but a really interesting one. And then I mean, this industry, right? Like this industry up and down, the
Yeah.
last year. Like it's just been nothing but craziness. Well, I feel like the world's crazy, but we'll just restrict ourselves to the retail world for a little bit, maybe. Um, but it's gotta be interesting for you to be able to teach this and kind of look at the landscape the way it is now, right? With everything going on.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. I mean, there's never a dull moment. It's not like when you're teaching retail, it's very much about keeping the content up to date. There is definitely theory, there's definitely fundamentals that will be at the core of the curriculum, but bringing it to life and coming up with the relevant examples and the application of the theory is really changing. Like I look back and how we build brands. There's some fundamentals that are still there, but a lot has changed, and a lot has changed in retail too. In given different types of technology, and now of course AI. Um, there's some of well in I think in a positive way, some of the mundane tasks, like I think of even like scheduling people, like there's
yeah,
great AI programs now that
yeah,
help managers to schedule and to
yeah,
do it efficiently and in a way that makes sense, so we're not spending our time on kind of boring tasks and maybe focusing in on things that are more meaningful, engaging, challenging, exciting.
yeah. I mean, what do you see coming? Like we've had so many changes, and then I think with all the US stuff really kind of reshaping the way we do retail. What do you Are you tracking any particular issues? I think the one that I think both Kenny and I are interested in kind of Canadian trade is some of this barrier dropping that our new prime minister has been talking about, right? Hopefully we can get some interprovincial trade going. But are you tracking anything that you're kind of either worried about or thinking about um, right
Well,
now?
my focus generally, like from an education perspective,
Yeah,
is thinking about the skill set. Like how do you prepare
yeah,
students, and are like the learning and um, the environment in a university program, like how does that prepare them to be really productive professionals, but also like just lead a meaningful life? How can
yeah,
make a difference?
yeah,
um, I'm really interested from a research perspective. I'm really interested in the circular economy. And I think there's some really interesting examples in retail around repair and sharing and, take back programs. And some of those programs are not necessarily circular because the take back is okay, here's your store credit, and
Yeah,
now you
right.
have to go shopping again. So, we're not really solving a lot of problems there. It might just be perhaps encouraging consumption. But I think there's also um, a wide range of size of companies that are doing interesting work. I think top of mind for when students come into the program, inevitably top of mind are like the big retailers. But there's I'm so fascinated by the independently owned, um, smaller to medium sized retailers that really, you know, really dominate the overall landscape in Canada. If you look at from like an employment perspective, it's the SMEs actually
Yeah.
like that are really dominating the
Yeah.
landscape, except in
Yeah.
top of mind,
Yeah.
it's the bigger retailers. So we have an opportunity, I think, to understand the full landscape, and that has always been my goal in like when I'm teaching. And it's not just to focus on fashion, like I have a great project where I work with Circle K. They're a really, really great partner, and the convenience channel is fascinating. I've got, field agent like Jeff Doucette and I worked at
Yeah.
Unilever at the same time. So he,
Yeah.
comes into my classroom
Yeah.
and
We're a huge fan of Field Agent. We love Jeff.
yeah, he,
Yeah.
and he's been very generous over the years in
Yeah.
supporting my students. I developed a category management course, so he's very involved in that. And Nielsen is very involved in my course too. I
Yeah.
teach my students how to read Nielsen reports, analyze data. They're working on velocity and doing all sorts of market share calculations, and it it's fascinating for employers to hear in an interview that there's a undergrad student who knows how to analyze Nielsen data.
For sure.
Um, that's a real differentiator.
Janice, there are people that we grew up with that still don't know how to read Nielsen data.
Yeah.
Nielsen comes
Right?
in,
Like,
they do a full like 3-hour workshop with my students. They're so amazing. And they're so excited about getting undergrads learning these skills, not just happenstance learning about them once they end up in their careers.
yeah.
And uh, yeah, so some of the retail sectors that maybe aren't sort of talked about as much, like even in the news, like convenience, those I think are really important things to showcase to students. So yes, the trends and the changes are important. Those are kind of like the day-to-day updates that I will update my course with.
Yeah.
But to me, I want to make sure that a variety of retailers are showcased. I want to make sure all sectors are showcased, and also the non-retail organizations that contribute to the retail ecosystem.
Right.
Yeah. We love those spaces. Like I think it's funny. I was golfing with the Canadian Health Food Association on Wednesday, and I brought one of the students that was in our digital engagement program with us. He comes from Ecuador, works CPG in Ecuador. Kimberly Clark, J&J, and they came here with a mindset of like, I got to get back to a tier one. And I had said to him, like, retail here, CPG, if you want to go that route, it's so diverse, right? But they almost can't figure it out. But we rolled up to the golf tourney, and he looked at me, and I went, yeah. So they all look like our people, but when you start talking to them, and then like, they had hold set up with brands that were trying to showcase their product, and when we came out of there wasn't a single tier one CPG company there, but I could tell, right? He was just like, oh my God, like the world, they've been looking at, maybe 25, 30 companies, and you realize like there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these companies that are doing amazing things that you could
Yeah.
be a part of, right? Like,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. And
I love that. We love that. Like, it's
I think, like a stereotype of a small business used to be like, they're just, they're just kind of like, um, they don't have sophisticated tools to manage. They don't gather data. Small
yeah,
businesses are gathering data.
mhm,
They have the tools now. They're looking for, ways to be more competitive. And not every small business is just going after, growth. Like there's there's so many different goals and so many different ways to thrive, as a business.
yeah,
And some of these companies who are making like really meaningful differences in communities, main street retailers, like this is a pretty important part of the whole fabric.
Right.
yeah. There's you know, like to finish even that example, like he and I were talking about, and there's some of these guys. They were like, we don't care if we ever make it to a Sobeys or a Walmart. And he's like,
Yes.
who else is there? And you go, look, like if you add up, just the health food or the healthier, kind of product retailers out there, like the Nature's Emporiums, the Whole Foods, like
Yeah,
Healthy Planet, all these guys, there's an ecosystem here that you can make a very good living and like make a difference in Canadians' lives without chasing bottom dollar or trying to, kind of like impact margin, right? Like it's such yeah, I love it. Like I love this part of the ecosystem, right? Like it
I
is
do
a
too.
place
I do
to
too.
be. Yeah,
It's There's
yeah,
so many more opportunities for, for niche marketing
yeah,
where, you don't have to have even national coverage.
yeah, yeah,
You just have to decide what kind of life you're trying to create for yourself
Right.
and
yeah,
what scale is manageable for you. So, for example, like when you mentioned, Phil, like some companies say no to like a
yeah,
Sobeys
yeah,
or maybe just not even pursuing it.
right, yeah,
That comes with other challenges. And some people are excited about taking on those challenges of scaling up, but other people think, wow, that's just a big headache.
yeah. No, thank
It
you.
may not work for me.
Yeah. We tell this story a lot. So there's a bone broth guy that we really love who's been on the show. He isn't a CPG guy. He bought a company that he thought was financially viable. And he showed up at one of our accelerators and he said to us, I don't understand. So when I look at my margin and what I can make, if I stay in my region and do what I do, I make a lot of money. But everyone says I have to go coast to coast. But he said, when I do that and I add everything up, the profit margin doesn't get bigger, it
My
gets smaller.
business grows, but my profits don't
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah.
So, and we said, yeah, you're right.
All
You
right.
shouldn't grow. He goes, but everybody. And we go, we know what everybody says, but you have to do what's right for you. If, he has young children, he wants to what is he running? A decathlon or something
An
completely
Iron Man or
insane,
something. This
right?
whole
Like,
thing was,
one of those, like, I'm
yeah.
going to run 18,000 miles and swim
I
another
could
8.
double my workload, double my
Yeah.
top line to remain at the
Yeah.
same bottom line. Because
Yeah.
why would I do that? And we looked at him and said, I don't know.
I don't know.
Why would you do that?
We don't know.
Up to
So
you.
don't
And
do
if you
it,
don't
right?
want to
Like,
do, listen, I get it. I can appreciate why you wouldn't want to do that. If you're not going to make any more
yeah.
and you're going to work harder to make, in essence, less,
Yeah.
if that's not appealing, then don't do it.
Lifestyle, right? Like
It's
Yeah.
your game, right?
yeah, but
That's
you can be
that's
an
one
amazing.
thing I really noticed with talking to undergrads too. And to me, it's very refreshing to hear this like shift in thinking about goals. It's not always just make money, money, money. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
making money is nice,
Yeah,
but how do you fit other things in there?
For sure.
And I think that's also like it's been too sort of normalized that companies are only successful if they're growing. But if you grew 10% last year and then the next year you were flat, like that's maintaining 10% growth, which
Yeah,
is
that's
phenomenal.
nothing wrong with that.
And
yeah,
but the reporting is like, oh, but they're flat
Right.
this year. What's going on? What's the problem? And
yeah,
it's like, no, 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 that actually needs to be repositioned as a huge accomplishment.
Right.
Because if you maintain that 10% growth from last year, my mind, like, wow, that could be pretty
Right.
impressive.
yeah,
And yeah, like if you really crunch the numbers, getting that extra account, um, you adding on more human resources, like maybe that does not actually help your bottom line at the end of the day, and it's certainly not going to help you find more time to train for that Ironman.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
true. It
exactly.
really isn't. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a really cool. I like it. I like it a lot. It's been on our side, like covering these guys, the small mediums. It's been really fun. Like it's just I think I will admit that what we see in our country worries us, right? Because we've consistently, particularly on the grocery side, right? You've
Yeah,
seen,
the
um,
consolidation.
Well,
yeah,
there's six
and
guys, right?
yeah,
That run
you know,
80,
and
85%
and then
of
the
the business.
indies
Right?
that
Stop.
consistently, like the indies that sell, good for them. They make lots of money. They've done the work and they're getting their profit out of it. But for the consumer, it feels like we've got to figure out how to get our government to protect the small mediums a little bit more.
Agreed. I think that they should have more readily access to investment funds,
Yeah.
loans. We have all sorts of amazing opportunities for very large companies to expand their footprint, and oftentimes getting hugely subsidized. But yeah, I think we want to see a more balanced landscape. Um, that yeah, the consolidation at the end of the day does not provide consumers with a lot of choice.
No, doesn't
Yeah.
provide much of anything. Provides a lot of boring stuff, to be very frank.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah,
Why do you innovate? What do you care? I mean, you're driving shareholder growth. You're driving a different world, right? Innovation comes from trying to do things different. Big doesn't necessarily want different. It doesn't. What? Who
Big
cares?
can't
Right?
necessarily do different,
Well,
right?
they
Like
can't. Well,
yeah,
plus, by the time
it's
they get it, it's
difficult,
the
right?
different is
Yeah.
gone because they've made it the same because
Yeah.
that's what sort of works.
Yeah.
Where the innovation typically comes from the small and mediums, and then someone large will buy them, and hopefully they let it alone in terms of what it was. Like you can change the dynamics of the business, and you have to
Right.
structure it. All good in
Yeah.
the hood, but
Yeah,
there's a reason why,
They've left Longos alone. So right now Longos is still very much its own chain, but
which is cool, right? But they didn't
every
Mhm.
leave
day is a
cookies
borrowed
alone, and they
day,
killed
right?
it.
So
Right?
yeah.
It's always the same. It's just trying to understand that there's
Yeah.
the whole game is to make money. That's why business functions. It doesn't function for much else. That's good. That's what you're trying to do, but it doesn't mean you have to become this homogenized blah that doesn't really like if you go to the top six, it's all the same stuff. I mean, what's different?
Yeah.
Lies? One guy carries a kilo and one guy carries 100 grams. So that's different. Wow. That's exciting. But
We're almost out of time.
that's cool.
I
That's
am
pretty cool.
really
Wow.
glad to catch up. This has been amazing.
Wow, thanks
Mm.
for inviting me, and really nice to meet Kenny,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome, man.
great to reconnect, Phil.
Yeah. Listen, you come back anytime you want. So if you see something going on, and you want to talk about it, you ping us and we always have space for you.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, we'd love it. We'd love it a lot. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. My
Yeah.
pleasure. Great
Yeah.
talking with you both.
No, it was nice meeting you. That's pretty cool what you do. That really is.
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever want a grumpy buyer's mindset, Kenny's your
I was a
man.
buyer for a long
He-
time. So yeah, definitely grumpy mind is where we're at.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, love
Very
your
cool.
podcast.
All
You
right.
guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janice.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
Hey,
Take
take
care.
care.
Have a
Okay.
nice
Nice meeting
weekend.
you.
Bye.
Bye. That's
Pretty
Janice.
cool, man. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Right?
We never heard of a
Yeah.
retail school. I mean, seriously. I mean, nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit. We
Yeah.
never got taught retail when we were.
You know what, like, and what was really fun, like when I got to her classes, I mean, you know, like if you're a retail geek like us, how many times do you get to talk planograms or like shoot? It's a weird thing to say, but like to shoot the shit about planograms, right? Because normally you do it because you got to do it. You talk about it because it's part of the business or you're trying to solve for something.
Right.
But we got to her class and we could talk about brand blocking. We could talk about like why you might lead off with like what brands you might lead off with, like why you might go bullseye, why you might do private label, checkerboard, things that
Well, what level do you want to be on, and
like
why do you
things
start at the
that you
bottom or the
really
top?
like really are geek things that you only do because you got to do it for work, not because it's a curiosity or there's a reason. But in her classes, you do it, right? You actually talk about those things because it matters, right? So,
Well, it does matter. And the thing is, I think
mm,
what you do is, especially if you learn that and you start calling on the independents, you'll understand why there's a different mindset between like corporate and independent.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
wonder why they do things differently. Well, there's reasons why
there's
they do
reasons
things
for sure,
differently,
for sure.
right? Which is always the issue guys you had when you were coming to us, because
Yeah,
you guys wanted to do it your way. And I think, well, I'm happy for you. Then you know who you can do that with, and the other ones try to do a little different thing. It's very cool.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
didn't even know we had a program in the country that
sure.
that
Yeah,
did
yeah.
this.
It's
Right?
really
Seriously,
cool. It's yeah,
no,
I
it's
liked
fascinating.
liked it.
Plus, we love
Awesome.
the kids. So,
Okay. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening.
thanks for listening, people.